So I got to thinking the other day. It was, I guess, a couple weeks ago after my interview with Tyler. So if you haven't listened to that, by the way, go back and listen to it. It was episode 27, I believe. But something that he said just kind of triggered like a train of thoughts in my head. He was talking about how I asked him, do you work out at night or do you work out in the morning? Are you an after work guy, before work guy? And he said, I work out at night because he had to get up like every day really early, like in the fours, to lift during college football, and it just ruined it for him. And like he associates lifting in the morning with those bad days now. And it just got me thinking about like coaches, any coach that you have at any point in your life, especially when we're younger and in high school, and how they can shape what exercise looks like for you in your brain. And I wanted to talk about it. And then on my interview with Chloe, which I did yesterday, which is on today's podcast, we talked about it a little bit. And I was like, you know what? This is the perfect episode for me to just dive in and give my thoughts. So it's not really an educational episode. You know, I'm not here to teach you something today, but I thought that this was a good discussion to have because I think most of us had played a sport at some point in our life, or we all had to take gym class in high school, middle school. I don't know about you guys, but I've had good coaches and I've had bad coaches, and I've heard horror stories of coaches that make people quit the sport, hate the game that they grew up loving, and people that are the opposite, people that have coaches that have empowered them to do things beyond their sport. I played soccer growing up. Just a little bit of a background. I played soccer from kindergarten up until my junior year of high school. I've had way too many concussions, too many bonks on the old noggin, and I am not allowed to play semi-contact sports anymore because I could risk some brain damage, and I'd like to keep my head where it is. But anyway, not the point. I also ran track sophomore through senior year of high school, so that was for 3 years. I think part of the reason why I love weightlifting so much right now is because it's all up to me. I've said it to so many people. I just feel so good being able to go to the gym and work out and nobody tells me what to do. I don't have somebody yelling at me. I don't have somebody forcing me to do things that I don't want to do. Do I always encourage you to be trying your hardest and pushing yourself hardest in the gym? Yes, of course. But at the end of the day, nobody's forcing you to do anything. And I really like that. And I think that the reason why that really is an important factor for me, and it's a reason why I don't like group exercise classes. I don't I rather weightlift. And I know some people are the opposite. I don't like group exercise classes. And I think it's because of playing sports competitively for so long in my life and some of the coaches that I've had, it brings back memories of me running laps on the field, thinking I'm going to throw up or something. And I'm like, I like that if I really start to feel sick or ill and I'm in the gym, I can stop because it's up to me and I'm not in a class or anything. So back on the soccer thing, it's the only really soccer and track, the only two sports I played. So I don't know about other sports, but I'm going to assume some of them are the same. My coaches ever since, third grade have always used running as a punishment. I had this so mean coach my freshman year of high school of soccer. She was a straight up bully. She hated me. She made it very obvious that she didn't like me. She told me multiple times through the season, you're probably not going to be on this team next year. I'm like, okay, thank you so much. That's really encouraging. She had this sick game she liked to play. And we were, by the way, this was just a freshman team. It's not like varsity. It wasn't that fucking serious. She had this game. I grew up playing, I was a goalie until I think freshman year, honestly, was the last year that I really was a goalie because then everybody started to grow and I just wasn't 5'2.5", not really built for the net, sadly. Although I'm very agile. Not the point. She had this sick game that she liked to play. And it was me and this other girl, the other goalie. We would get in the goal and the girls would practice their PK shots. Here were her rules. if a girl missed a kick, aka the goalie saved it, we all had to run a lap around the field. If I let a goal in, and like the girl kicked it and made it, we all had to run a lap around the field. I'm like, first of all, what the fuck does this make sense? If you want to condition us to run, then just have us fucking run. Just have us fucking run. And that, like, I used to dread it. Like, I used to hate it. I used to dread that was like, I knew what was going to come. And my soccer coaches have always used running a lap as a punishment. Oh, you're goofing off during practice? Go run a lap. You missed this many goals, or like you had shitty kicks or whatever, take a lap. Oh, we're going to scrimmage and the losing team is going to take a lap or something. And running was always a punishment. And I grew up, like, to this day, me being a almost 24-year-old woman, I hate running, which is so funny because I did track. I'll get into that. But I hate running. And it sucks because running is a free form of exercise. You don't need a gym membership for it. You don't need a treadmill for it. All you need is some outdoor space and some sneakers. And I hate running. I've always associated it with negative things. And like, I've hated the way that I feel when I'm running. Whereas if I worked on it, if I practiced and built my endurance up, it would be just like weightlifting. It's like hard at first, then it gets easier, and then you continue to challenge yourself. But running has always just stayed like a punishment in my head. And it's because of the way that my coaches treated it growing up. So I said this to Chloe during my interview, but with my clients, I've been in-person training for, 5 years. Oh my God. Wow. Half a decade. Ooh. Ooh. Anyway. Wow. That snuck up on me. Anyway, with all my in-person clients, I've never made them do a specific exercise as a punishment. Burpees is another one. You're goofing off, 10 burpees. Losing team does 10 burpees. If you don't make it back, like if you can't run in this amount of time, burpees. Stuff like that. I've never done that to my clients. Instead, I do believe, if you're a part of practicing and making somebody better and training someone is, you have to challenge them and you have to give them some sort of, the people respond to consequences, it motivates them to do better. But instead of choosing one or two exercises to be the punishment, it's like, find different ways. So with my clients, for example, if I say me and my clients are doing squats and my client stops like halfway through and it like takes a break in the set, I'm like, come on. I'm like, get back under that barbell and you better do 5 more, finish off the set right now, or you're going to do another 2. And I'll take that with me for, say we're doing planks or whatever. And she's like, she's slouching her back, not using the correct form. I'm like, you better straighten out that back or you're going to go for an extra 15 seconds, rather than being like, okay, if you take another set during those back squats, you're going to do 10 burpees. Because then I'm associating burpees with a punishment. Whereas if, I make her do a few extra reps, make her go for a little extra time, it's not one specific exercise or one type of exercise that's going to be associated with something negative in her mind. So that's something that I've really realized, that the way that you talk about exercise and the way that you treat exercise, especially to young, impressionable people like high schoolers and middle schoolers, will stick with them for the rest of your life. And that's what I was thinking about with Tyler, where he was like, I will not get up early and lift. Can I get up early? Sure, but it just takes me back to those days. I know so many college athletes. One of my friends, Jonathan Lewis, he was on like one of my earlier episodes, said he went through a period after stopping playing college football where he didn't go to the gym at all because he was so burnt out from everything that he had done. And that sucks. And it makes me sad that it takes like one coach or like one period of your life to just ruin exercise as a whole for you. And I don't think enough coaches realize that. And I think that that's a really big separator in like what makes a good coach and what makes a bad coach. And the same thing happened, when I was in track. Track's a little bit different just because the only thing you do is run. So yes, we would have running based punishments, but there wasn't anything else. Like for soccer, it could have been like, not like, you know, if you're goofing off or whatever, you're going to stay on here for an extra 5 minutes while the other people get a water break or something like that. With track, it's like the only activity you're doing is running, basically. But my coach is, you know, same way, same type of punishment. It's just, I think what stood out to me about my high school coaches is I had good coaches and bad coaches. There was 3 of them. There was, well, the long distance coach I didn't really work with. I just talked to him more for like mentor stuff and life advice. I had my head coach, who was also the sprinter coach, because I did sprints and hurdles. And then we had the specialist coach, who was hurdles, long jump, high jump, all that kind of stuff. I went through high school, or at least like the second half of high school, with such a bad perception of myself. And a huge part of the reason was the way that my coach treated me. My head coach, not my specialist coach. I'll get into him when I talk about what a good coach is, because is just an outstanding person. My head coach took my self-esteem for what it already was, being a teenage girl, stepped on it, and dug his heel right into it until there was nothing left. He had absolutely no faith in me. And to this day, you know, seeing how far I've come and what I look like and stuff, I'm like, if he could see me now, and I'm 24, I should not be thinking about the coach I had when I was 18 anymore. But he scorned me in such a way that I think, like, if he could look at me now, he better fucking apologize. Like, seriously. This coach, I worked my ass off because he wouldn't put me in events. You know, he'd swap me out and stuff like that. And I'd have to prove myself. Like, he wouldn't even watch me. He wouldn't watch me practice. So I'm like, how do you know how I can perform? Because you don't pay a single bit of attention to me. You care about your favorites, and that's it. No, I'm not going to be an all-star like runner. I don't want to run in college, but that doesn't mean I'm any less important than the other performers on this team. You know what I mean? He was one of those coaches. Oh, if you're not breaking records and if you're not winning state titles, I don't give a fuck about you. So I worked my ass off for my varsity letter my junior year. I really wanted my varsity letter. That was a goal that me and my helpful coach worked on. For track, since it's a non-cut sport, you have to earn points to get your varsity letter, and you get points by races that you participate and place in. We had a really good season. We got multiple first place medals, just multiple medals all around. I was on a shuttle hurdle team, and we did really well. Time came, end of the year banquet. He's handing out varsity letters. I don't get mine. And he stapled a packet together and handed it out to every girl on the team. And it was every person on the team and their breakdown of how many points they earned in every single match. You had to have X amount of points. Say it was 10. I don't know what the number was. We're just going to say 10. I had like 12 points. I was over the limit. He goes through all the varsity letters, doesn't give me mine. So I march up to him, and like my voice was a little shaky. I remember this so clearly because I was terrified of him. Went up to him and said, "Excuse me, you didn't give me my varsity letter and I deserve one." And he's like, "Oh, what? You didn't earn enough points." So I flip through and go line by line, and I'm like, "This is how many points I have." And he's like, "Oh, I guess I'll see if I have an extra letter." Like, just did it. Like, that's how awful he was. Like, he didn't even, I don't even think it was like the fact that I wasn't like an all-star performer. He just personally didn't like me. And I don't know why, because I tried my goddamn hardest. And it really took a toll on my self-esteem, you know? And this is less like, it's less of, it didn't have an effect on exercise, like my relationship with exercise, but it had an effect on my relationship with myself. And I would sit there just frustrated. Like I could clearly see who his favorites were. Why am I not his favorite? Why is he nice to me one day and then mean to me the next day? Why does he pretend like he doesn't see me when we're walking down the hallways? Why do I not get a chance to be in this race? Like, why am I not good enough? And what do I have to do to be good enough? You know? And it's something that I really struggled with. And it's like, I couldn't help but feel like all these people around me were being set up for success. And I was actually getting pushed further back, and I wasn't being allowed to maximize my full potential. And that was something that really, up until like my shuttle team, my relay team broke a school record. He still didn't give a shit about me. And it really, I think like part of piecing together my self-esteem started actually that summer after I graduated high school, when I started weightlifting and I started taking control of my body, and I didn't have a coach. I didn't have anyone to report to, or I wasn't doing it for anyone. I was doing it for myself. And that's when my self-esteem really started to change. And it sucks. It sucks that there's a lot of coaches out there, but I've also had really good coaches in my life. And I'm very thankful for them. And what does a good coach look like? I think that a good coach is someone who recognizes that what you say and what you do as a coach goes beyond the sport that you're coaching. The things that you say and do will stick with people for the rest of their lives, even if you don't think so. It happens all the time. I say things. People have said things to me and like casually that I've stuck with. I bet I've said things that people will never forget, and I'm like, oh, I forgot that I even said that. If you're a coach, especially to children, you need to understand your role model position and not take advantage of it. And you see it up to the pro levels. I'm a Giants fan. You could tell when the Giants did not respect their coaches, like Coach McAdoo. The team performed shitty. The players didn't want to do anything for him. Now with Brian Daboll, they love him, and the Giants had a better than average season for the Giants. Probably one of their best in a while. Still not great, but that's not the point. But it's because he treats them with respect and gives everyone their chance. Just because you're not a starter, you sit on the bench, doesn't mean you're not important. It doesn't mean that you should be treated like that. My specialist coach was someone that I still talk to today. Sadly, I only had him for a year, my junior year. And then he ended up he moved to a different school for his full-time job, and it was just he couldn't come back. When it counted, he showed up to those matches or races. Sometimes we would tell him, he would ask us, hey, what's your schedule looking like? When's your race? What time? What's the order? He did not have to be there. Nobody was paying him to be there. He would take his own car, his own money, drive wherever, up north in the state, down south in the state, to see us perform because he cared, even though he only spent 1 year coaching us. That's something that I think that he was the glue holding my self-esteem together, which is you can't really pin it all on one person, but I genuinely think I would have been an absolute train wreck if he didn't believe in me. He treated everyone like they were important. He would break, every practice, everybody would get their own one-on-one time with him. Granted, he did have a smaller group of girls to work with because we were just the specialists. But he would check up on us, after hours, make sure we're doing well in school, all that kind of stuff, make sure we are recovering well. He was never disappointed in the way that we performed. Say we were doing some practice runs and my shin hit a hurdle. He wouldn't look at me with disappointment. He'd be like, hey, saw that back there. Let's tweak this. And it was always positive. The way that he encouraged us to do better. He didn't yell. He didn't give us an ultimatum. It's you do better or else. It was, hey, I think if you do this, you would decrease your time by a second or something. I know you could do it. Just things like that. And he said something to me that stood out for years. I've held on to this, and I tell all my clients, I said to him that junior year, I want my varsity letter. I want my varsity letter. And he said, okay, but that's not the goal we're going to work on. And I was like, why? And he's like, we are going to work on beating a school record. Because if you aim for the moon, you're going to at least land in the stars. Worst comes to worst. And I said, damn, what a good analogy. I really wanted my varsity letter. But if all I was doing was pushing myself to get my varsity letter, I was going to be disappointed if I didn't get it. But by trying to accomplish something a step higher, the varsity letter was going to fall in beneath. Let's say you're playing basketball. I've never played basketball, so this might be a bad analogy. Say you're playing basketball and you can't make a basket. Like you really just can't make a basket. Or like a 2-pointer. Instead of trying to work on your layup, try and work on your 3. Because if you could do it from back there, you could do it from up close. And the 3 is the extra. You know what I mean? Like it's going to fall underneath there. Say you're running a race and you're like, oh, I really want to run this 5K in under 30 minutes. Be like, how about we push for 25? How about we push for under 28? Because if you push for that, 30 is going to fall under there. He said that to me, and it's something that I've just taken with me through all of college, even things now. It's like, oh, I want to have a podcast. Okay, well, let's set up and do it on YouTube. It's just always going the step beyond, because what you really want and everything else that's under it is going to fall into place on your way to that big goal. And that just really stuck with me. And we still keep in contact today. He always makes sure I'm doing well. Like, I don't know. I guess that's all I have to say about that. But if you are a coach, I hope that made some things click in your mind. And if you have had negative experiences like that and you associate some forms of exercise with something negative, like a punishment, I think it's really important to recognize, hey, you're an adult now. You're not on a team anymore. Everything is up to you. Find the type of exercise that you enjoy. I hate running. I've just always had a bad association with it. But I love weightlifting. You might be the opposite. You burned yourself out weightlifting in high school and your coach made you do X, Y, and Z. Maybe you take some sort of a class or you get really into yoga. It sucks that a coach can really have a strong effect on you, but it's also kind of what they're there for. They are supposed to be mentors. Unfortunately, not all of them are great. But at the end of the day, there are so many different ways to move your body. Just find what works for you. And as you become older, you realize like you're in charge of yourself. You don't owe anyone anything except for you.